Hey guys, thanks for being here. This is a recorded reaction, and here's why I record these reactions. Many public broadcasters and private channels dislike it when you react live to their content. I frequently get kicked off YouTube for unknown reasons, so I record my videos to ensure they don't go unnoticed. I've been kind of avoiding this documentary because it's very close to my life. I know many of the people who are part of it. I try to report as neutrally as possible. It's not meant to be bashing. I also have a clear opinion on the documentary that might surprise some. Don't get upset about the sound. I'm working on improving the sound. It's always like this. Sometimes we buy sound mixers. We do this, we do that. It's not all that simple. It's about the content. Press the place, and then we start now. It's about the Nazi village of Jamel. In the summer of 2015, the journalist Michel Abdollahi was a guest, I believe, for 4 weeks in the Nazi village of Jamel in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern near Wismar, where I also had contact points, and I want to go through this doc with you. I wanted to dodge it, but I'm not going to do that now. I think it's part of it, even if something is uncomfortable for me or the reaction afterwards, and that's why we're letting this thing run now, and I'm glad you're with me. This is going to be, I believe, a somewhat longer thing. The video is 30 minutes long by itself, and you know this is where I'll start talking. Well, good. Then full blast, treat yourselves. And then let's go, guys.
Hello, my name is Michel Abdollahi, and I have a tough job ahead of me.
I'm on my way to a parallel society, to a real problem district, to people who have isolated themselves, are hard to integrate. With a criminal leader, as it is called, I am naturally a bit excited about what awaits me there when I go to such a place, which might not be the best for vacation, also maybe arrival at a place, before which...
The text is about the village of Jamel and has already been summarized well. I find it amusing when people say that some are difficult to integrate. That's how it was for me too, as I also saw myself as an outsider. The boys and girls from the village will probably see it a bit differently, always in relation to the homeland. That's all. We don't need to integrate, but everyone else has to do something for it. The village has, of course, become somewhat famous, but I also have to say it's somehow in the middle of nowhere. There are like 10 houses or so, 20 people live there, doesn't make it any better. It's something like a nationally liberated zone, but we'll get to the details. So it's not like you imagine it, like a village with 1,000 inhabitants or something. 2,000 inhabitants. It's really very, very rural in the northwest of Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, Mecklenburg exactly. And you can Google a bit about it yourself. Many
people fear.
Jamel is not a village you simply pass through. It's a village you have to want to go there. Yes, there's no country road, federal road, or anything like that, that there's a lot of public traffic or something. But if you end up in Jamel, you've consciously driven there.
It's a village that constantly makes headlines.
Yes, we can already see the greeting of the signpost here. This will play a role later, signposts in various directions. In the village community of Jamel, you can observe social and national dynamics. Very typical statement among right-wingers, far-right extremists. Yes, classic image of the rural family somehow. No idea. Yes, I don't know. 1900 maybe until, well, the classic picture, as you see the idyllic family with 3 children, flood of children, nice greeting.
As a Nazi village, a nationally liberated zone. Journalists from all over the world have already stopped by here, but no one has really had a conversation with the Nazis yet. I'm going to stay a little longer for a month in my own little house with the permission of the mayor of the municipality.
I think in itself it's already a pretty intense project. From my perspective, living there for 4 weeks is already an intense project that requires a lot of effort. The other thing is always such a snapshot. You come somehow, let's say, often a camera operator may also engage in ambush journalism. We ring, now we are here, what do you say to that? This and the accusations, what do you now say to the village? And then a short statement, and then you filmed away from my property, cut to 4 minutes. So you always have to see what value such journalistic assaults have. I stand critically against it, sometimes positively, depending on how it is even possible. Yes, if someone doesn't want to be in front of the camera, but making the effort to stay here for 4 weeks and really try to get to know the village community and stick with it shows real greatness for me and is an exciting project. At that time, I was in prison and didn't notice anything from the outside at all. I would have been interested back then, but I was in prison for the second time.
The story begins with a mix of tension and arrogance.
Yes, so we are now seeing Sven Krüger, whom I have also met personally a few times. I can gladly say a little bit about how he always seemed to me later, of course. Cool, the question just now was, can I say hello briefly? No, let it be. I would say a typical North German snack, no interest. Of course, they have to see it that way. They saw it as their village. They are the landlords there. The mayor somehow passes on the meadow. They somehow build a house there within a few hours, and camera team, construction workers, etc. And so on. That must have caused quite a bit of excitement.
Wow, don't disturb, right? So if... Yes, make yourself comfortable. I don't want to disturb you.
By the way, this is Sven Krüger. He's the boss here, they say. Welcome to Jamel.
So now, of course, he's saying Sven Krüger is somehow the boss here. I believe he wouldn't say that about himself, but everyone knows that's how it is. It's kind of his project. I also think he's originally from there, but that's just a guess. It's not a proven fact. He somehow took over the paternal farm or house, and he has a very long far-right career behind him. He was also involved in some projects. I think he went to Africa to get intercultural training away from right-wing extremism. He was always hard on the line. He was also in prison. I was also in prison with him. And I'll say it up front, you can like Sven. So you can like Sven Krüger. And that's also something that comes across in the documentary, in my opinion, that there is no pure evil. And that becomes very, very clear in this documentary. As I said, the village chief, he couldn't have provided or procured the plots of land for everyone else living in the village and so on. He is something like the unofficial mayor, at least from my outward perception. But feel free to comment below if I'm saying something wrong. Yeah, first contact a bit cold, isn't it?
Starting tomorrow, I want to start conversations with the people here. That.
I find that quite scary.
A little. 10 o'clock, no one in sight. Still, I somehow feel watched. village. No one in sight, just the mural. An Aryan family. I've already introduced myself to some residents, but without a camera, filming is not welcome. Do you want the hand? Can't we take the hand? Yes, of course. Fits for the camera.
Yes. So, of course, you always have to, of course, the camera is for most extremists. It doesn't matter whether they are right-wing, left-wing, or Islamist. Of course, they don't feel like it somehow. Yes, our lives should be made by people. We should be shown. Yes, of course, we're talking about the Nazi village of Jamel from the outset. And then you get filmed like that. They don't feel like it. It's all lying press anyway. Everything is reported incorrectly. And there the aversion is already programmed so deeply. It was the same for me, that you generally saw a camera, reporter, Norddeutscher Rundfunk, public broadcaster, no matter who, no, don't feel like it, turn off the camera, no, I don't feel like it. Yes, and then now I don't know if they were informed, like that the house is supposed to stand for 4 weeks, that he lives there for 4 weeks. They would have been pissed off at first, and it would have taken some time until they really warmed up to each other. So if they have warmed up to each other, I'm also curious to see what we're going to find out next.
Let's explore our new neighborhood, a signpost with interesting places.
The East March.
We have...
What do we have there? Braunau am Inn, the birthplace of Hitler. The Bräunig and the Führer's dog headquarters.
Let the complainers still admit to their origin and not swim with the people-destroying multicultural current. Yes.
With that, a lot is always said when we see this Braunau am Inn, for us too. Braunau am Inn was an important place, yes. Birthplace of Adolf Hitler, yes. Not giving in to the multicultural madness, Jamel stands firm. And yes, then you don't need to talk much about conviction when you are later asked why you are then also labeled as far right or radical right. I know, there will be discussions again here, yes, it's just a place and so on, but if you commit to the place, simply, even if you are somehow 1,000 kilometers away from the place, I didn't look at how far it was now, but yes, it's a statement then, isn't it? Dogs
are here.
Welcome.
A mini sweater. And they like symbols too. A license plate with the 88, Nazi code for Heil Hitler.
Yes, that's probably why the license plates are now being banned, because they are so abused, which is of course shitty for everyone who was born in 1988, yeah. March or Die is just, yeah, you can see it a bit in the writing, yeah. No, you don't even need to say anything. These are pictures that explain themselves, right? Yeah. These are, of course, things that they actually don't want to have in public anymore. We want to have, especially when we present ourselves as a village community, which then also wants to deal with a certain tolerance. White power, the term, of course, used permanently, spilled over from England or the United States of America, also used a lot in Germany. Yes, these are things they would prefer not to see. But it's still visible. It was not removed anyway.
White power is known as a slogan used by the murderous Ku Klux Klan. And then a person. Very good. Mrs. Baski has been living here for over 40 years.
I'm against Nazis and everything. I don't even want to say that.
But for me, these people are not Nazis.
How do you determine that they are not Nazis, even though we identify Braunau on them in the birthplace of Adolf Hitler?
They are not Nazis.
Absolutely not.
They also have their own opinion. Being a member of the National Democratic Party doesn't necessarily mean you're a Nazi.
But right-wing.
And it also has links. I'm not in any party. I've never been in a party.
I will also never join one.
Yes.
A very good example right here. The dear lady, of course, she already knows what structures there are. I don't want to use the term Nazi too loosely in this video. It is used too quickly, too easily in the media. But one thing we have to make very clear, and that is simply from my own experience and with the contact with the people I had who live there in part. National Socialists, those are Nazis. They don't want to be called that anymore. Yes, today. Yes, national community. National community, yes, that the term is not used like that, but we have to say now these are Nazis, these are neo-Nazis, most of them alone. I have dealt with many of them. I had a kind of book club with some of them who live there, or at least that we have exchanged books, read all literature from the Third Reich, which has been collected. The conversations we had there is a strong division of the Hammerskins who live there. I don't know if Krüger is still with the Hammerskins. So to gloss over this now, yes, and then always there is this left, and I am apolitical and so on. Of course, she's been living in the village for 40 years. What should she say now, or gives her own political opinion? She knows exactly what's there, and whether she's a part of it or not, I don't want to insinuate now, but this relativizing, yes, there is also left and so on, and Bruno in India, and one can have his opinion, is for me a few lava, that one does not stand out in the village or somehow belongs to it or just has not dealt intensively with it. Most of those living in Jamel who feel affiliated with the right-wing spectrum are neo-Nazis or National Socialists. Yes, where it is clearly about ethnic, national, racist thought blood. From my perspective, everything else is just a hassle.
There is on the left, yes, correct.
I am in no party.
Have never been in a party. I will never be in a party.
Jamel, these are 11 houses at the end of a dead-end street. The residents are mostly Nazis. On the village's edge, an artist couple has been resisting for years.
So we see now and then, we heard earlier, yes, so it has been in the media all over the world, which is right, but we are talking about it. Still, it's no reason to belittle it, but we also need to maintain a sense of proportionality now and then. And for me, in my new life now, when I look at Jamel, when I look down there, I say whether it's there or not, it doesn't have a big impact. It just shouldn't become a trend. And I think that's what it's about, hijacking villages and driving out undesirable people who are not on the same political wavelength from these villages.
No one talks to me, especially not the Nazis. Is it because of me, the German Iranian, or because of the cameras? Otherwise, they like to present themselves as confident here, for example, with this Aryan family, their pride and joy. Since I'm being politely ignored, I take a trip to the ideological surroundings of the village.
National Socialism, Nazi-Demonstrationen waren an der Müritz.
Free, social, and national, as if they had carried it from the Nazi village here. The same political dreams, just louder. Free, social, national. Reminds me of a picture that I read every morning when I get up. They would probably like to deport me from my own country the most.
Yes, it must be said repeatedly that when I see the demonstration pictures, it shows how people walked around themselves. I'm so glad to have distanced myself from that visually, so that I no longer fall into that category. You'll see what I say about it. I assume a fanny pack will also be in this video. I would be surprised if not. Yes, it's of course still a sad bunch that's going there. But one must also repeatedly say, and this is also reality for the politics in Mecklenburg-Western Pomerania, these things are also only so big, so simple in these structures there. There is too little social exclusion, too little resistance, and there is too much subtle agreement. Yes, one must also say that we keep saying when neo-Nazis march on the street, one could expect a broader front of resistance here than from the few young people who stand there. I know this will certainly be discussed controversially, but that's just possible in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. In Germany, it's no longer possible to go to big cities or other regions. That's why many people here also feel like they have the upper hand.
I wouldn't have
Thought that I missed a beautiful year. But everything is connected to everything. This speaker knows the genome of the right village all too well.
This power comes through this
For
the employees to vote.
Hello, Doris Zutt, National Democratic Party top force, who for a long time was on 2 residents of the Nazi village. Attempt at a location determination.
Then join me. We have more sunlight on our faces.
I've always found the National Democratic Party in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern to be a rather sad group. And never, of course, especially in the Mecklenburg region, Mecklenburg-Wismar, Grevesmühlen, and a bit down towards Gardebusch, Schwerin, and so on. It was rather a sad bunch. So, of course, when you see it like this and you are in the settlement, it's not like I'm blown away that in this good weather, let's say, 1,000 or 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people go out on the street. It's just not like that. There was no corona or anything like that yet. Yes, it's now. So this National Democratic Party stuff is just, it's also over. So in my opinion, there's no need for a banning procedure anymore with the National Democratic Party states because they're simply an absolute insignificance.
What is home to you?
I think I don't even know exactly what she had said. Nice and brown. She's brown on the outside. I'm nice on the inside. Haha, it's such a funny Nazi saying. It was also printed on t-shirts back then. Healthy tan comes from within. Tanning Salon 88 was printed on t-shirts, or it exists. Always says a lot, again and again, when things are put into perspective and bring such a funny saying to it. Oh. As I said, I keep saying it, even with the pointing finger at me. I don't want to point at everyone else here. That was exactly my environment. That's exactly where I hung out. I wish them all a change. You too, Mrs. Zott.
Home is where I feel comfortable, where my compatriots are, where I was born, where my roots are.
I belong too.
Here? You have the right to live here, but your home, your roots are probably elsewhere. Yes, the roots
Or elsewhere. Where is my home if I've been living here since I was a child?
That is
then a mistake of your parents.
So roots, homeland, and so on, a bit too much is being mixed up for me here. Of course, I am also someone who stands by what is probably not quite politically correct today. To ask someone, where are you actually from, or where are your parents or your ancestors from, is already really difficult politically to ask that today. If you ask with genuine interest in the person, you can ask that question. I honestly believe that is also excessively politically correct. But this mixing of home is where my people are and so on, I've also experienced differently in my life when I lived in England, and I didn't experience that there either. I wasn't born there, those weren't my people, so to speak, but I still found a home there. And that, I believe, is a process that one must first go through. You can also experience this in hindsight. I experienced it beforehand, yet I still radicalized. But when you then open your horizon and maybe get out of Jamel or even Warren and the Müritz, when you then get out and find a new home somewhere yourself, I think home is simply where the heart feels comfortable, where you feel comfortable as a person and where you have the feeling of home. And you can create that yourself. It has nothing to do with the place where you were born. I have experienced this myself in my life. But feel free to comment under the video what the term home means to you and how you define this feeling. I would be very interested to know.
My parents uprooted them with that. But not to you. That's your opinion. I'm totally fine, yes. What culture do you live? Do you live yours, your parents, your ancestors, or do you live our culture, a German culture?
Well, I can't even play the video because here is now this culture question. I disagree with the idea of guiding culture. Yes, this discussion about the guiding culture, I'm also a fan of saying, okay, that the rule of law must be recognized, equality, the basic law must be respected and also accepted as its basic law. But to superimpose the German culture and so on. So I also think that even as a German, born organic German, one does not necessarily have to adhere to these values and so on. One can always define this very openly for themselves. As long as one respects the basic law, which I have also relearned. But here Mrs. Zutt is of course mixing a lot. Yes, which culture do you live? The German one. Yes, I would have liked you, Michel Abdollahi would have asked you, how should one define the German leading culture for oneself? I would have been very interested in that. I live by far.
There is no mixture of distance. Jesus was born in a stable, not as a donkey.
Oh, always this about Jesus being born, and if a rat is born in a horse stable, it's still not a horse, and so on. It's too confusing for me. Thanks, Mrs. Zutt. The video continues.
Jamel after work. I'll try to make contact again. The man on the lawnmower is Sven Krüger, a notorious neo-Nazi doing yard work.
What does this have to do with the signpost?
Well, that's our signpost. We did it as a joke, and then everyone got upset about it.
Then we had court proceedings, they took away the sun overnight, and then we fought a case and won, very democratically. And with this system, we built it anew. And a meter higher, so they can learn. So...
Of course, Sven has now. That's also something one should not underestimate. Many approach this very arrogantly, always thinking that everyone you meet in extremism, if we're talking about right-wing extremism now, and I keep saying it, I find left-wing extremism, Islamism, or whatever just as shitty. The same goes for when climate extremists start to act against people, body life. I find it just as shitty because they want to abolish democracy. However, Sven doesn't allow himself to be easily misled. Sven also plays quite nicely with words later on. He just didn't receive enough education and so on. He is indeed a very knowledgeable person who can't be easily deceived in a conversation, who then also speaks ironically about it. We won quite democratically with the means of this system. So they learn, we built it a meter higher. It's just to show, then we beat the system with its own weapons and so on, and then he makes fun of it. And you have to be careful not to always speak from above and then act as if you are always the morally elevated authority and always smarter. Be cautious when engaging in discussions to avoid appearing foolish.
Despite everything, we're in Mecklenburg and have thick skulls. Do we want to use each other? Yes. How old are you? I am Sven. I am Sven. I am 43. Then I can offer you the informal you. Do you see yourself as a neo-Nazi?
Quick to say. It's always a predisposition depending on how you define the term. If one does not commit to the Federal Republic of Germany and is then automatically located outside the legal order, then it is the case that these people are simply automatically referred to as neo-Nazis.
I don't know, I can't even define the term neo-Nazi for myself.
I don't quite buy that from Sven right now. Of course, it's a nice story. He said that rejection of the Federal Republic of Germany, that one is placed outside the legal order, where one has also put oneself, one must not forget. Yeah, of course, this is already well done rhetorically, that he does not confess and says, yes, I am a neo-Nazi. He knows what the Norddeutscher Rundfunk could make of it, how it is received, talks around the hot porridge, how he would define it. I am very, very sure that you could wake up Sven Krüger at 3 a.m. in deep sleep, and he could freely lecture about what National Socialism is for him, what that means. So that he can say he can't define that for himself. It's hard for me to believe that in this context, but it's just rhetorically important in front of the camera.
I think the guiding principle, violence yes or violence no, can be pinned on people, not on political convictions or having a different opinion on certain political topics, like what the mainstream is right now. And violence yes or violence no? For me, yes. I've lived life to the fullest in the past. Now, I'm settled with 3 children and have moved on from that phase of my life.
Oh, now we're calculating. To support us, consider this personal note. My book, Hate, Power, Violence Games, is out and a bestseller. It's still very, very intense how Michel Abdollahi approaches him to even start the conversation. I think that was already a big surprise for him. Yes, with the violence, it's always, I take that from Sven as it is, just as I got to know him. He's not someone who goes around and fights anymore. So he won't be someone who jumps out at the gas station because he sees someone with dark skin and attacks and beats them up somehow in a drunken frenzy or something. That's not Sven anymore. I think he defined it himself. Yes, I'm out of that age and I haven't missed out on anything. The question is always which you would have here, Frank, because from my point of view, yes, okay, if you now have people in this country who you dislike, from your point of view, you want a remigration so that people who still see their home here and who do not want to be re-immigrated on their own, how would you carry out this re-immigration without violence? Then it's about a much larger state or newly shaped violence to get rid of these people. And that would be the question in the larger context that would have interested me here. That Sven no longer goes out and beats up individual people. That is for me, I believe that too. But the question is, if we want to change or destroy a political system and want to build something new, and here are people we don't want, what do we do with them if they don't want to leave voluntarily? That's the exciting question.
Yes, you were the top Nazi, and somehow I also find the man a bit likable.
My dear friend, whom I have come to appreciate very much, Christoph Gieser, also has he also wrote a book, Real Heroes, False Heroes, where it's about even the evil has its likable people or can have charisma and so on. And that's the case here with Sven. He has gathered this group and this village around him and had a very great talent for it, even before in the skinhead scene, a respectable person to be, on which many people have listened, who was very appreciated. But of course, he built that up through charisma. And then when Michel Abdollahi admits here, okay, I somehow like the top Nazi, that's something that Sven can do. He didn't learn that intuitively from a YouTube course, but because there are leadership personalities in right-wing extremism. The more dangerous people are, the more dangerous the situation is.
But several court rulings prove Sven Krüger is not always so nice. Assault, receiving stolen goods, possession of weapons. Numerous previous convictions up to the recent past. In early 2011, the police found, among other things, a submachine gun from World War II and hundreds of rounds of live ammunition at his place.
I think I still remember the story. I spent a short time in prison with Sven. On the day of my arrest, he provided me with stamps, pen, coffee, juice, and more, despite us never being buddies, acquaintances, or anything of the sort. We had strong differences because of a mutual acquaintance. I don't want to bring up that story here again. I believe it's in the business with hate or something like that. In prison, people help each other, even rival biker gangs and so on. And I mean, he has told me the thing with the machine gun was like this. It was actually otherwise in a depot, and he took it out on a Sunday to clean it. And again, not to repair it, but to disassemble it once, to clean it and so on. And did not expect that there could be a house search on Sundays, because most extremists or criminals assume that house searches are like the police work from Monday to Friday. That's how I remember it, but I'm not entirely sure if it's completely accurate. But then there was a house search on Sunday. He didn't manage to dispose of the machine gun. Funny fun fact, you can't flush it down the toilet quickly. And especially when it comes to weapons and so on, the police search a bit more thoroughly than if they were looking for, say, 5 grams of marijuana. So with lethal weapons in the hands of extremists, the police should act accordingly, which they did. That's how I remember it. But if anyone knows more, there are many people from the region watching. Feel free to write it in the comments, folks from such.
Things make people feel threatened who live at the other end of the village. 2 activists who oppose the Nazi movement are located 100 meters away in the village. And here is their barn. Completely destroyed by arson. Who is behind it is not clear. Since the Lohmeyers want to hold their annual festival against the right here in a few days, they suspect it was an arson attack by the Nazis. A conjecture that scares them. Did that strengthen you in your mission?
Yes, especially on the night of the fire. It's clear that we will start below the fat level in any case.
I can't say much about the fire strike. Of course, it's obvious that it was set on fire. I don't know to what extent the village is annoyed that this festival is always there. And I can imagine that an old extremist might think, let them have their party, we'll get some attention, we'll have our own counterparty later on. I haven't watched the documentary in a long time. I recall it being very controversial in the newspapers. I think there was one dispute with the minister or with the head of the district office that the arson could not be proven from which direction and so on. All sorts of people themselves came into the crosshairs. So a very, very difficult, dirty game there. I'm not exactly sure about the Lomes either, but you have to imagine that. Of course, they are an artist couple and they decide at some point. I believe they also come from the old federal states and then somehow sort of form idyll for themselves. Nearby, Mecklenburg is really beautiful. Near the coast, some kind of artist farms are realized. They are searching the internet for a farm and then maybe find a farm in need of renovation, in need of refurbishment for 60,000 euros and say to themselves, great, we're moving there. They take a look at it. And nothing is to be seen of neo-Nazis. Maybe they don't inform themselves enough. And then you buy this house. And then I can tell you the value has dropped from 60,000 to 0. And then you're stuck there. I think that's also a big problem. I would be interested to know how the Loma feel about it now, if they had the chance to reverse this decision, whether they would move there. That would be a very interesting question for me. Moving to a new place only to discover you're living in the midst of a Nazi village, which you weren't aware of beforehand, is something that would greatly interest me. You could have bought it, but you didn't destroy it. How?
Is it in that village? Imagine it like this. How does that feel for you?
You come home and park the cars and on.
The next morning you get in the car and notice the tire is punctured. Or that a well-known National Democratic Party representative once visited a woman in the village and advised her to sell the house.
While she still can.
These are, I think, clear signals in our direction, proving that they want to drive us out of here.
Of course, this is how it works. Always the principle of 1,000 pinpricks, which is then also applied. Sure, I can imagine that if there is a long list of comrades willing to move who would then like to get such a house cheaply, they would want to get rid of the Lohmeyers there. It would be a huge success if the Lohmeyers were to give up. Living in the village deserves respect, but one must consider how it affects their own quality of life. I'd be interested to know how you see it. Just write in the chat here whether you'd like to live there. All those right-wing trolls we know, you would like to live there. Yes, yes. This, I have to say, I don't know if I would sell the thing with a huge financial loss and say, okay, maybe it's better somewhere else. I don't know if I would want to do that to myself.
And emphasize being nationally liberated.
It was never clarified who punctured the tires. The Nazis only admit to once throwing a rat into the mailbox. That's enough.
The Tink House in the neighboring town of Griebesmühlen. You can't really look up there anymore these days. I have a business nearby that I occasionally deal with professionally, and I was just there about half a year ago, so still in 2020, there is now a complete fence around it. You can hardly see the house anymore. That's the Ting House. A Ting was something like an old council, a meeting place where the tribes made decisions. Very Nordic, Scandinavian, with a hint of Germanic influence. Simply a Ting, easily said. Something like a meeting place where exchanges were made. Grassroots democracy, often demanded by neo-Nazis, is likely a romanticized concept that didn't truly exist in practice. So there, fiction probably hits more than reality. But it's right in the middle of an industrial area in Griebesmühlen.
A fortress for Nazis. The owner, village chief Sven Krüger. According to the Office for the Protection of the Constitution, a brown network was organized from here. Every Friday, National Democratic Party state parliament members invite citizens to office hours here.
Yes, so the entire elite is really on it too. So Sven Krüger, David Peterreit, also known in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, National Democratic Party, Stefan Costa, Udo Pasteur, of course, was elected to the then state parliament. The National Democratic Party is no longer represented in the Mecklenburg-Vorpommern state parliament today. Yes, Community of German Women, State Association of Mecklenburg-Vorpommern of the Young National Democrats. What else is that? National Women's Ring. Okay, you might not understand with the Community of German Women. Institute for Progressive Politics and Public Opinion Research. Network for Foolery and...
Yes, sir.
Mobbing for Mecklenburg, probably something. No idea, I can't read it exactly. This is what a mailbox looks like in Gravesmühlen.
Including faction leader Udo Pasteur's. However, he doesn't want to begin with me here. So here.
You can also see the company of Sven Krüger, who has now also made a lot of money. I believe his business is doing well, as he has made a lot of money. That always goes under Demolition Krüger. Rough guys who have a demolition company. I don't want to go into too much detail. I know a bit about it, but that's old news now. I don't want to dwell on it because it's not about the company now, but it's a very noticeable logo where back then I think the Star of David or the Star of David was, I think, not smashed, or what, the communist star, yes, a worker with a sledgehammer, and yes, I think he's not doing badly, was also often on the road in the old federal states. It has also been removed from some construction sites after public protest. But you can also see a lot of money was made with it, but not everyone made money with it. But calling Sven a capitalist is unfair. You don't do that to him. But I do believe that there is a financial gap here between the people who live in the village and Sven. So yes, real talk.
Instead, I was granted an audience at a more representative
place, the Schwerin Castle. I was also at the NSU committee. Beautiful castle, Schwerin. Oh.
You course, Mr. Jamel. Nice that you are
taking that
in. We are near Jamel at the Tinghaus and Grebesbühne, the usual location for the citizens' consultation hour. So you have it very nice here in the state parliament. Why?
Did we have to drive so far? Yes, if I determine the place, if you want something from me, and my schedule is as it is, then I kindly tell you yes, I am ready for it, and then I tell you the conditions. You are my guest.
So basically, I always see it like this. Whoever wants something from me has to move their ass. If I want something from you, I have to move my ass. But I believe it's also largely due to the fact that no filming is allowed in the Tinghaus. I don't even know if there are interior shots of the Tinghaus. I'm not sure. Sure. So it must also be said there was once a grill on the grounds of the Ting place which said Happy Holocaust, and I think it was Happy Holocaust, wasn't it? Yes, I believe so. I'm not sure if it's wrong, but Happy Holocaust was also a band that sang that Vaginal Jesus, I believe, and the one who spoke about Happy Holocaust. And then you know what's going on. And when a National Democratic Party parliamentary group leader holds a citizens' consultation there, I think this is mostly about not wanting to be filmed there. But in general, I agree. If someone wants something from me, they need to approach me directly.
You believe that you are here in Germany?
Live here. That depends on what legal status you have. If you are a German citizen, then you are a German citizen according to current law, and you are of Persian descent. That's a formality. It's like...
I sometimes miss Michel Abdollahi's questions here. Yes, according to existing law, that's what many extremists are about, rewriting and changing existing law. According to current law, you are German. If we could speak law or could create a new law with enough power, then you would no longer be German, Mr. Abdollahi. And that's what should have been asked. That's always according to current law. And that's just rhetorically dodged by Mr. Pastors, and that's where one should have followed up. So
she is, and we have to respect that because I do too. So it's okay that you're here? Yes, if you are here legally, that's formal.
Okay, what's your question? It's not illegal to exhibit a place, but Braunau in the end is indeed a sign. Yes, so...
You know, there are left-wing communes here, so it says 422 miles to Moscow or something like that. Yes, but Moscow is Moscow. Yes, Moscow is Moscow.
But Braunau has only produced one thing in its country history, namely Adolf Hitler. And to gloss over that is...
How I feel about it, that's a matter of taste.
That is a matter of taste.
Personally, I wouldn't put a sign on my property saying so many kilometers to Moscow or to Braunau.
So that's a matter of taste. What kind of comment do you want from me now? I would only what one thinks of it as a democratic party. Oh.
Man, you are also a praised person.
Yes, of course, it's also difficult to harp on that now. It's now evident to all what to say about Braunau am Inn, even if exhibiting in Moscow. Braunau am Inn is truly unique. I'd be interested to know how you guys see it in the chat. So no matter what, whoever puts that in their garden where I'm visiting, and then it says 1,000 kilometers to Braunau am Inn, it's already a clear statement, as if someone stands up to Moscow. There is a difference, but the harping on it, he's not going to lure the passengers into the trap now to comment and say, yes, I think it's great. Wriggles out, matter of taste. Yes, it's a matter of taste, just bad taste.
He knows about class. The man is a convicted insider of the people. In Jamel, I'm becoming increasingly perplexed. Most are quite friendly by now, but they don't want to be filmed. My idea. As the new neighbor, I'll invite everyone to a barbecue. The whole village should come. Unfortunately, skepticism rather than curiosity seems to prevail among the villagers.
The question then is how it would be received in your community, in your bubble, to just go to a barbecue with Michel Abdollahi and then get caught up in conversation there. Yes, that's also the big risk that many of the leaders see. It was the same with me, that I wouldn't have let everyone in front of the camera because I would be afraid of what nonsense would be talked about. That's exactly how it will be here. They would have asked Sven, and he said, if anyone's going there, it's him. I don't feel like one of you talking crap. That's at least how I imagine it.
Obviously, you prefer to let him do the talking. Sven Krüger.
I'm now in the mood for grilling. It seems to be a coordinated role distribution.
We are currently discussing a new image. That is now, I believe, 7 years old. Or 6 years old, I'm not exactly sure. And we want to change ourselves again there. And how? That is not yet completed. For us, it's a process of discovery, because everyone has an idea, and then the best one is implemented. With us, it's direct democracy.
Grassroots democracy, direct democracy is always what is demanded. Yes, it is. We have to imagine with every decision a direct democracy. Wow, then democracy will be 100 years slower. I am also in favor of asking the people for big decisions. Direct democracy is feasible in a village of 15 people, but inconceivable with over 80 million citizens. Yes, it's another beautiful utopian thought, but nothing more from my point of view. He's into that.
It doesn't work so well, right? The direct foot report. What is the other one? The parliamentary foot report? Not at all, I think. Oh, we have other legs there.
I think it's quite good. We can both sit here and talk. That's not something you can talk about.
That is even still allowed in this country.
I believe in this country parties, so parties as such should.
I believe
a Senate
with intelligent people, will be really well taken care of.
A Senate with intelligent people raises the question of who determines intelligence. And then it would be an elitist clique of senators again, just like the example of Rome or something, which was shaped by the richest families of Rome who were senators there. And yes, it's a nice thought somehow, but it has little to do with realities for me. I keep saying it, democracy is also shitty, but it's still the best in the shit. So if someone knows a better system, but certainly not an elitist clique who thinks they're intelligent and whatever else, and then somehow determines that the people are no longer allowed to have a say. Once someone gains power in such a Senate, they are unlikely to voluntarily relinquish it after 5 years, admitting their intelligence was insufficient and giving up their seat. is much too far away from me. These are such utopian and beautiful utopian thoughts.
This is my emirate. Why, yes. They can do all that you say. You are the one. This will be the perfect country.
So, what would you wish for?
Yes, that.
He says with a smirk behind his beard. Sven is not an idiot. Attending secondary school doesn't necessarily indicate intelligence, as not every degree reflects intellectual capacity. Yes, well, I also know dumb people who can memorize well. Sorry. He cleverly belittles himself and anticipates everything through his rhetorical approach. Now Michel Abdollahi goes on it. He himself says about himself, okay, I still have secondary school education. I would have liked to have studied. I am a violent offender. I was only in prison. I could not contribute anything. That means he has taken the wind out of my sails. Abdollahi has said, no matter what you say now, I have already made myself bad, first of all, and now I can only surprise positively. And that is also what then happens with the viewer. That is also my criticism of the film. Partly there was not enough follow-up. And if he already rhetorically, yes, I don't want to offend Abdollahi, but rhetorically already stand if nothing after.
But it's never too late for social education. That's why I ask about the topic of these days, the refugee, the attacks on accommodations.
What's your stance on what's happening now?
In Heidenau, people storm.
Can happen, doesn't bother me. Would you also protest if they put a container here? I haven't considered it.
I don't think it comes across. Let's think about it. I don't know. As burnt as we are by the name, it would be a hostage taking. That's not at all. I
think you come over and drop off a few old shoes and don't say here. So if a family comes who is in need,
if you really get to know them, you can't hate them.
Yes, what a sentence from Sven here. Yes, if you really get to know each other, you can't hate each other, says so much about it. Of course, that Sven is turning 40 now today, 45, 46, is of course also a realization that he has gone through in his life. Of course, it is clear that he could not have set up refugee containers after Jamel. I don't know what happened there. And Sven will have played this through in his head, but can't give the answer here, of course. So he would be in the construction phase before the thing would stand. The thing would be burned down 88 times.
The problem is I can't introduce him to all foreigners so that he doesn't hate them.
Appointment with a woman who has been observing Jamel for years, and who has mainly experienced the village as hostile.
Secretly made recordings show the other life of the village. Certainly Hitler would find this group laughable. But even if it looks chaotic, they would like to achieve more with their ideology.
Yes, of course, when we see this now, it will, again, not be a Tinktreff, but something like a summer solstice, some selected meetings, rituals. We have seen the children with torches and so on, and I am a big opponent of politically educating children today, imposing a mindset on them. I'm sorry, I don't know under what pressure the children are to eventually develop freely to love someone, same sex or whatever, or to work, to have friends as they want. I would say just like I used to, and whether Sven is standing there now with 20 or 30 people and they are doing that, but children then somehow a little dress with torch march and so on, and national community. It's a shame. I pity the children. I hope that some of the children somehow go their own way when they somehow get out, have the opportunity to live their own life, and then also look beyond the borders of Jamel.
Maybe the pile of switches stands for that too.
Well, it will be a summer solstice.
Hello, Mrs. Rupke. Thank you for taking the time. Just to be safe, we'll meet outside the village.
I've been in the village for a while, and the community is putting in effort.
To be incredibly nice to me.
Sure. If they've been friendly to you all this time, then it's a performance. They can do that. They can also stage themselves for the election. It's also a strategy in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern that they really appear as the harmless citizens next door with family, child, and level. That's how they also set up their children's parties, but that's not really how they are. They are really dangerous, and I think the attack of the tank is no game, it's no joke, but it's really bitter, dangerous, everyday life for many people.
So with Mrs. Robke, I think she has also written something about me in her books. I had contact with her again after the exit, which was not so mega friendly. So I still have everything by email, where I then had overlaps for her book. Right-wing extremists and rockers were expected to contribute, but progress was slow as I went on vacation. So I believe I'm simply a person she just doesn't like. Even today, I would probably be a no-go for her. He has extensively researched the right-wing extremist scene. He has, of course, acquired a great deal of knowledge over time. I believe he has also already experienced physical attacks and such. You always have to endure that first, regardless now with my feelings towards her. I'm never resentful towards people, but you have to endure that too. It's always easy to say when you're so well known in the far-right scene afterwards. I would say every older neo-Nazi knows the name, at least from the subculture or from the area of neo-Nazism. And what she of course says, that's a staging, and they know how it works. They don't get caught so easily anymore with the blatant images of the Hitler salute in the back room and so on. But there will be that, and I agree with her, that it's simply also a danger, but you can't just let it go. But you also can't make Jamel too important over and over again. That's also very important to me. Let's hope that this project doesn't last, as Mrs. Robke also says here, that the children presented. I wish the children simply a different development than just getting stuck in Jamel. And there, to make a homogeneous national community, I say, Jamel also needs fresh blood at some point. If later the whole village community, 10 people among each other, then the master race won't run so well.
This is not a game. This is not a joke, but this is really bitter, dangerous, everyday life for many people.
When I now talk to Sven Krüger in particular about violent crimes, it means that the violence is from youthful indiscretions. This is from earlier times.
When this camaraderie goes out at demonstrations, we experience it again and again. We repeatedly attempt to deteriorate and threaten. So it is by no means the case that Sven Krüger can actually talk about youthful sins. This structure around him is dangerous.
Why think?
Do you think people are dangerous?
Or what?
Do you base that on? I say that from experience. I've been attacked myself. Just like my colleagues, we are constantly being threatened. We are being hunted. How fast do you think one has to be in this region to get away? You can't move freely there.
They want to exert dominance there, and of course not just in complaining, but to move forward.
They simply want the Constitution, they want humanity, they want our ethical values, they want to undermine authorities and determine for themselves. We call the shots here.
Yes, that's it. Everything I've listed are just opponents, the rule of law, the Constitution, and so on. Humanity, perhaps from their perspective, only for the deserving. And of course, they are declared enemies of him. They won't say that in front of the camera now, but of course, if you really turned off the camera and asked what kind of system you imagine, what kind of unpleasant person, there would be a list of loyal Democrats, civil servants, police officers, prosecutors, police officers, prosecutors, gays, lesbians, leftists, artists, who knows what else. So the arsonists like me, public bicycles would be an absolute no-go for them, and what would happen then we'd rather not imagine here now.
Meanwhile, the police are showing up in the village, especially this weekend. The upcoming festival against the right is under tight security. After the arson attack, many more visitors than usual have announced they will be coming. Krüger has his own event with comrades in a bouncy castle for his daughter's first day of school. Prominent visitors like Campino also came this time. Meanwhile, the Nazis are bouncing around and pretending to be the ideal family. Politicians have also arrived. After the barn fire, all eyes are on Jamel. Federal Minister for Family Affairs, Manuela Spesig, is taking a stand against the right. Do you have a moment? We're from Arbeitsgemeinschaft der öffentlich-rechtlichen Rundfunkanstalten der Bundesrepublik Deutschland. What do you think of this family image that people here have?
This family image first suggests home, and the term home is a good term for many, but behind it is quite radical thinking, and that's the problem. Behind it is the idea that only that is home and only that belongs to Germany, which is supposedly German and thus is against everything foreign and different. And I have to be quite honest, for me it is very un-German to not be cosmopolitan and to be against refugees and people who think differently, for example.
Yes, of course it was a politician's statement. Let's leave that out now. Mrs. Schwessig is now the Prime Minister of Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. I'm unaware of the measures taken there. I would need to be more politically active in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. However, I now live in Schleswig-Holstein instead. And yes, now the statement's there, and that Sven is holding a counter event for his daughter's hiring. Of course, he has to show his colors there. Yes, it's his village. Still, I believe they are amused by it. And my criticism is often here at these concerts too, even where it was in Chemnitz, and then artists come and then a huge concert is held and 100,000 people flock there. But then sometimes it's not political enough for me and not enduring enough. Of course, it's a nice demo. Once this concert, many people come there because there is music and atmosphere, and you can see famous bands. There were already very, very many famous bands and musicians and so on. Yes, that is the long term and the permanent, maybe at the Loma. It would, of course, be much more desirable to do something there somehow. And yes, the constant annoyance with action, this one day or so survives. These communities, wine survives that then get their attention, make their event, also let themselves be sprinkled in the music. You have to always remember that. Then they listen to that also with fun, listen to that also with, no matter whether then immediately is sung, yes, Cry for Love, those are the Doctors, right? And, or What I Know, what is then sung there. They still celebrate with it because it is faded out and is still consumed, and many of the people are who then do not engage with the topic permanently. It's a bit, yes, a bit... is nice to support once a year, but could of course also be somehow more permanent, that something develops and happens, could do more in Jamel, in my opinion. But it's easy to say others should do more.
Who did everyone bring along? For the
inhabitants of the village. And also for the friends who inflated this bouncy castle so nicely. It's the story about a sphere from him.
The story about the victory show.
So fast as...
It's not over yet.
Krüger tells me later that many of his window dead pants are also, I believe that, the number.
The song has also been rewritten in right-wing extremism. Sasha, who embodies all the stereotypes, is unemployed. I don't know if that always helps, and this concert is good as support for the Lama, but it just fizzles out, right? The effect fizzles out. I don't know. How do you see the effect of something like this?
This signpost is the village's showpiece. The Eiffel Tower of Jamel. It's strange that the people who built their house here apparently don't look at it very closely. Such a signpost stands in every front yard. Yes, but not in every front yard. Braunau am Inn is signposted, the birthday. I recently spent a weekend in Bad Segelberg and saw a signpost that also mentioned Braunau. Just Rudolf was there in the Hindenburg as another person. No, we are already further.
Paris or in the
Hessian city. Many were in Paris and New York, but Braunau is indeed strange, I would say. And then they don't find it that way at all.
Then also admit it, just say it, and don't say you saw a signpost. And Klaus Streif is the father of a close comrade of Sven Krüger, who previously lived in Wismar, with whom I also had contacts. It has remained very, very unpleasant in my memory. I likely remain in his memory too, though he perceived it very differently. His son is also a hardcore neo-Nazi. Naturally, Michel Abdollahi cannot embody these traits. That's why Mr. Streif must have ended up there, because his son in the village is of course also very closely associated with Sven Krüger, if not his closest circle.
I was looking out there to the front.
I would that to you now.
And there are a few who lived there.
The Braunau? The forefather was born there. That
is the birthday of the forefather. Oh, this is embarrassing now. That's not funny or nonsense. I don't know him personally, that's clear, but what he has done...
I don't know either.
Klaus Staub refused to talk to me on camera, and now I understand the reason.
What are we doing, so to speak?
Yes, it's already Klaus. The look says for me, Klaus now, and you win, go to a garden media lawn, or I sit down and drink coffee is not welcome, because who knows? It's just also the fear that internal stuff gets blabbed out, what is done behind the scenes. And we saw Mr. Streif earlier with a torch at the event. Can you rewind the video to where Mr. Streif says, "We're all here where there's nothing"? I think we'll see his son later at the demonstration next to Sven Krüger. You are not here.
With beautiful green grass, they are here due to our brown
fence. And then an invitation lands with me. Sven Krüger gave it to me. Obviously, he wants me to come to a demonstration in Wismar. We are going there together for the homeland.
I think Sven Krüger has now also founded such a voter community, Mecklenburg, or something like that. Voter community Mecklenburg members are now also sitting on a council, in the county council. Have also grabbed votes there again. Don't even know if he is still active in the National Democratic Party. But I think Voters Association Mecklenburg Home or something like that. I think Google explains it, so yes.
And so this is Krüger's circle of acquaintances.
Thank God I'm no longer part of that. Thank God. So with all the insults as a traitor to the people, pest to the people, left green corrupter, PayPal, Merkel, disciple, train station clapper, teddy bear thrower, and so on, even though I don't even feel left. I'm glad I no longer belong to them. Nice. Nice. I would like to share some personal details about certain individuals I see here, but I don't want to kick anyone while they're down or personally attack anyone. But you can certainly see some of the elite here. He himself
is quite euphoric already. Hi, how's it going? Yeah, what do you have there? Show me. The Middlebow flag. The Middlebow flag. Can you say what's going to happen today?
Well,
we are going nice today.
Through the city. What is being demonstrated for? We will clarify that today. We'll clarify that. Prominent speakers will explain it to us. You don't know that yet. I'm a bit surprised about that.
Okay, until
later.
We don't want asylum homes. Such slogans are shouted before refugee shelters are set on fire, and Sven Krüger, with his Mecklenburg flag, sings along vigorously. Whoever doesn't love Germany should leave Germany.
These are just the embarrassing performances. It's also very much liked to be punished internally. These performances the press naturally laughs at, but it also shows what would happen if the police weren't there. We are not the nice Mecklenburg boys from next door, but just me going to a public demonstration, I don't want my face to be filmed, then I also go to a demonstration. If you don't want to be filmed, you are in public. It's a public place. You go out on the street, you have to
live with it. And some would like to show us right away how to do it with the expulsion. Sven Krüger in his habitat, and the man who doesn't know Hitler marches along happily as well. After this concentrated rally of racists, I urgently need relaxation. Wismar downtown.
Old
territory.
Cool glass is awesome.
Does that scare you that they are coming?
Yes, we do.
The one with the knife and all, she's a real Mecklenburg woman. Here swings the fear of changes with one. The world is changing after all, after the war, German Democratic Republic, the fall of the wall, globalization, climate, everything will change, and people are simply afraid of change. The media also play their part, and of course people who come here seek protection and then do not abide by the rule of law and do not obey the laws also contribute to this. This is a cocktail that makes people afraid, and they then become easy prey for extremists.
These people, when they come here, when they talk at cult, when they say, I don't want them, then it's either bad or good, but other shoes show.
Are you doing this now?
One can do it by oneself, yes.
It's just listening and saying, I do scare. It depends on the region. That's what I always said. There were just none. There was no social exclusion either. And right-wing extremism, right-wing radicalism is just deeply rooted in some of the new federal states and has fallen on fertile ground, partly after the collapse of the German Democratic Republic. So you just see in the old federal states, we just don't hear that. Yeah, it's just a problem. You have to address it.
750 million are supposed to come. Where else are we supposed to go? 750 million are supposed to come for attacks. Are you at the DNTV? Yes.
Or Facebook? Oh, I hope I'm already hearing that. Facebook says something. It twitches more together there. 750 million are expected to come, which Europe can never handle. I'm also critical of this. Europe cannot solve the world's problems. But of course, these are, again, such fucking news. This is exactly what is being absorbed without reflection. I saw a funny Facebook picture in my group, Save Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, and it said that 700 billion people are coming to Wismar or something like that. Yeah, so grossly exaggerated, but that's exactly the problem, that these news are absorbed so unfiltered by some.
I have my pension, my minimum pension, and then I have to get out.
So done. We have to do this, that you are here, so done.
And what about me?
I'm not foreign. That's no use. The right-wing mindset is not limited to Jamel. It's just that here it is openly displayed.
I'm making a new sign for the signpost at the birthplace Tehran.
The Nazis are so into symbols. And I have another gift for you. Symbolic politics, sign against sign. My personal family picture with a dark-skinned boy, a bit like me. The dignity of the human being is inviolable. From now on, anyone who drives into the village will be greeted by this mural.
So still, what I also had to learn, I find it the best sentence, the dignity of man is inviolable. Yes. So I'm curious about the reaction. I still know it approximately. Yes, I'm very curious. I find it a provocative action, but that's exactly what it should be about. I think maybe one should also explain a bit, just as tolerant family can look there as they want. For me, 3 women with 2 children is just not my idea of a family. But it doesn't bother me. I really don't care. As long as they don't annoy me and 3 women somehow want to trumpet that out. We believe our presence here should be recognized above all others. As far as I'm concerned, anyone can take that out. If another doesn't annoy or affect or endanger the welfare of the child or the welfare of others, that's the freedom I find very important. And today I also want this state to defend this freedom. And showing this now is of course meant to be a provocation with this family image. However, it's crucial for me to acknowledge that not all families must follow this structure.
As a farewell, I invite all of Jamel again. This time for couscous, salad, and neck steaks. I feel like grilling somehow right now. 2 villagers are even coming. One is bringing her grandchildren. The Nazis are not coming. Except for Sven Krüger, of course. Did you see my picture that I hung up here? No. You still don't really get it. What do you think about Article 1? Yes. That's our basic law. We've worked very hard to make it look the way we want it to. I still don't believe he's the man's son. He doesn't have to be. He can.
He can't stop after all.
Yes. And he could also be drawn into this village community. I have also...
A sign crafted.
May I give this to you? I tried to do this in Fraktur so that it... And then I also wrote this in Persian so that it from the Nax.
But you could also see how uncomfortable Sven is. I believe if he had let loose his real opinion, yes.
No, a bit of the international goes in. I would like to hand it over to you. Maybe you will consider whether you could attach it to the signpost at some point. We can talk about it at the next village day. All well and good, and then...
We still have Bruno at the... And why do you always dress in such small places? Because what Hitler did was significant. But that's not discussed, right? That remains.
Yeah?
Yes, of course.
Yes, Sven wouldn't admit to taking that off either. Then the press would come and say he has given up or caved in and so on. He would fight it through all instances. And hang it up again and again. That's a step that extremists simply won't take back because it would also be perceived negatively in their own community.
Why should we discuss this?
What's here is questioned or followed by question marks. That's just how it is.
So it's just the way it is. Everything's relaxed in the Nazi village. As long as they can continue their signposts and ideological hide-and-seek games. 4 weeks, Jamel. Friendly Nazis who want to crush you with their lack of style. And a village chief as a public relations strategist. But above all, my mural remains. Everyone who comes to the village will first see this family and a hint of our democracy, which they don't want here. After I left, Sven Krüger sent us 2 additional photos. My sign with my birthplace heron is now hanging, but only on his terrace, not readable from the street.
Quickly stop by and then leave. You can't see it anymore. Yes, that's just the humor that Sven also showed in the whole contribution here with the trash cans in front of it. Yes, I don't know if this picture still exists, does this house still exist, and so on. It's being celebrated so much, it must have been celebrated in the right-wing community as well. So yes, it's just when you get involved with the game, I find it crazy that he did that for 4 weeks straight. Of course, not much came out of it, because Sven Krüger and his gang don't let anyone see their cards. But what I miss is, when I first saw the documentary 4 or 5 years ago, I thought, wow, how likable they come across. I know what happens behind the scenes and that they're not all very nice or likable. There are violent, violence-prone neo-Nazis who want to abolish this state and inflict a lot of suffering on many people. I was involved and know that about them.
There are now 2 garbage cans in front of it.
Yes, dear people, that was a glimpse into Jamel. We will go live again. We hope that the experience I had there, we hope that such villages do not continue to emerge, that there are always actions there. And above all, when I have seen this, I'm happy if the children perhaps manage to escape from it, from the families, from these families, oppressive families, national community. There, I also mean that I don't believe that physical harm is inflicted on them there. But as a child, you have to be politically on the same wavelength as your parents, and I find that very worrying. I hope their educational experiences change their perspectives, leading them to eventually abolish the leap. Then it would be very interesting to have a report. What happens when children turn away from political thinking to life? How the parents imagine it, how to react to it, that would be very interesting to me. But dear people, many thanks for being there. We'll see you at the next recorded reaction. Forgive me a bit for the sound, we're working on it, and yes, many thanks, and as always, I remain with a hello from the coast.